This is originally at least an audio podcast, and now, of course, with KCSN, we've branched out. We love the video. The video and the live comment section, it's an enormous part of the show now. But I just needed to make sure I announce what is different today visually. It's not that Nate is on the road in a coffee shop of choice. That's all fine. That happens relatively regularly. Nate, let me just hey Nate, how's it going?
It's going fantastic.
You may be able to tell that Nate now sounds like professionalism and money, but what you might not know if you're just listening to the show is that he's doing that right into a handheld microphone with that iconic E on every side of the mic flag. Nate Taylor of ESPN now has Nate Taylor audio, and Seth Keysor has actually been demoted to one of those kids' toys. It just makes you kind of talk like you're going through a tunnel at all times. Hey, Seth, how's it going?
Well, guys, I think it's really great what's happened with Nate. Somehow it's made me feel a little bit different. It hasn't taken anything away from me as a man, though, fortunately.
That must be nice. Let's start the show.
You sound like...
Or not. We don't have to.
Tiptoeing through the tulips with Seth Keysor and Nate Taylor. I'm Joshua Brisco. Welcome to Only Weird Games. Go ahead, guys.
Nate is the worldwide leader, and we can't do anything right. That is just how it goes.
That's the beauty of the show.
Yeah, that is the beauty.
It's the beauty of the show. So think about it from this standpoint.
Oh God,
Seth, you sounded like the porcupine from Miles Morales Spider-Man.
See, what I was going for,
I went for the ancient reference to Nate's very cool young one. That's crazy.
Yeah, well, no, I was going for the,
Anyway, the doctor says my nose had stopped bleeding if I just keep my finger out of there.
I was going for Ralphie.
Yes.
And then you've got the classic that got modified later on in a YouTube series.
I met a possum in the woods today. My blood hurts.
Like, that's one of my favorite things about this being a video medium now is occasionally I get to see the look on Josh's face when I say things. Oh, the comments are insane. Oh, yeah, no,
Rachel
I was
said, no, Seth went through reverse puberty. That does happen. It's very rare. It's a very rare side effect of getting a vasectomy, having it undone, getting a vasectomy, having it undone, getting another vasectomy, and then having it undone and getting another vasectomy. I think Seth's on 6 or 7 snip snaps.
Look, sometimes you just got to take 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 for the team.
Sure.
I guess you got it. I don't know. I mean, that's something you got to do, I guess. I'm not there myself.
Yeah, I hoped my friends would get a kick out of this pre-show. They did. And
I love it.
For you, ladies and gentlemen, yes, just another thing that is in my possession.
There's so much gravitas now. You cannot call yourself Garth Brooks into an ESPN microphone. It's not allowed. It can't happen.
Yeah. No, everything
you malfunction if I go left.
If you try to do one of your patented "Here comes the red zone" channel, it's not going to pick it up. You can't snort your ESPN microphone.
I mean, let's be fair, ladies and gentlemen. You're supposed to hold it. Yeah. Let's be fair, ladies and gentlemen. In 2026, I will be promoting the Red Zone.
Oh yeah, that's an ESPN property now, right?
And I just want to speak for everyone that everyone is very excited about what that might mean for Red Zone and not even a little nervous.
I love everything that is involved in feeding Nate Taylor's family, whatever it is.
And whatever it is, I support it.
For my employer. No, we're gonna be absolutely professional. Telling you about the lovely things at ESPN. Will involve Red Zone.
I don't want to exaggerate here, but I think I'd sacrifice one of my children to see you on Red Zone, Nate.
Oh, I'd definitely sacrifice one of your children to get Nate on Red Zone.
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
boy.
you know,
Oh, gosh.
They get older.
7 hours of commercial-free football. Yeah,
You're like hour 2.
I should stop.
You and
Do
hour
you know
2.
which kid it would be, Seth? Have you already decided?
Oh yeah.
You leave it up to fate, or you?
I decided as I was saying it. Like
okay.
I made up my mind months ago. Like
yeah,
every parent knows that they know as much. They love all their kids equally, but they know which one that they would sacrifice for the greater good.
Yeah,
it's easy. It's easy once one of your kid becomes an adult because they would want you to. So Tucker's taking one for the team.
That's what I mean. I was going to say that I was going to play an elimination game and then quit before I said it was Tucker. But not Tucker Franklin, Tucker Keysor.
Yeah, the D stands for not one of Seth's kids.
I would not sacrifice Tucker Franklin to get Nate on
Tucker hasn't procreated yet. And until then, he's safe.
Oh, interesting. Is that what that means?
No.
That does sound actually, Nate, that does sound pretty similar to some things that I learned in like middle school. So that as long as you haven't procreated, you're safe. And there are definitely no long-term side effects of that message.
Yeah, you know, I should say that to a soon-to-be 10-year-old, right? I should categorize it in that.
I thought you were talking to Franklin, which is also true as far as I know.
Yeah, that's kind of the point. I mean, like, you know, it's any youngin who has yet to cross the threshold. You know, maybe I should put the mic down.
I mean, ESPN mic is making me sweaty now. Like I'm now getting stressed because I felt like we had helped as much as we could, and eventually it's like, well, you know, at some point it's Nate and a microphone, and there's only so much the rest of us can do to stop it. I'm going to attempt to stop it and save Nate's job, and at least until Red Zone's on ESPN. And then at that point, you know, well, we got to at least get you. You just missed around the horn. Born too late for Around the Horn. Born just in time for a guest appearance on the channel.
The amount of times people have said you should have been in front of Tony Reale years ago, is more than I would like. It's more than I thought.
Once tennis FaceTime. I mean, think about it.
I mean, come on. As people found out I was joining ESPN, they thought, well, you're gonna. Oh, that's right. There is no more Around the Horn, and it's like, it's
if they Nate, if
just
you
a
want to tell
little
them,
too late.
If you just want to let them know that we'll do PTI after Mike and Tony are done, I'm comfortable with you telling them that. I assume they've been afraid to ask, but
well, it is early. It is early in the process. I mean, technically, I haven't even been here for a month, so respect to them for understanding. Right. There's still an ingratiation process for me,
right? Before they hand both of us the keys to PTI, obviously. Which is what I have just decided is also I'm worthy of. Yeah, Seth, you could be our stat boy.
That works for me. I don't care. I just want to be invited to the party.
Well, you're invited. I don't think they have a studio in Minnesota, but give it time. Give it time.
Yeah,
the worldwide leader, ever expanding.
Disney's got money. We'll be fine.
You know what else is expanding, but that I don't like, fellas? The Chiefs injury report. Nothing terribly individually disastrous since Thursday's show, but a couple of developments that I do think are worthwhile. The two big ones is that Hollywood Brown is still sidelined. I think we knew he was most likely going to miss the next practice after Thursday's episode, but he has not yet returned to the field. And then Drew Tranquill left to practice with a back issue of some sort, back tightness, I believe was the word at the podium.
And by the way, it looked. I think it was on a 9-on-7 period or a 7-on-7 period. I think we have this on camera, but like it looked like, he fell down. That looked awkward. That could only mean my body is giving out somewhere.
Yeah,
so,
and
not great.
Tranquill turns 30 years old in 10 days, by the way. And as a 30-year-old currently doing this show on a yoga ball, I'm worried about Drew Tranquill's back because I'm worried about my back. And I'm, of course, not a professional athlete, but I do carry this show twice a week. By and large, though,
Fair.
Nate, what's the level of concern on Tranquill right now? Because, people say you never had a bad back, you have a bad back. And we also, this isn't necessarily like, it wasn't a point of contact. And then again, he was put on a board to get out of there or whatever. We're hoping for low levels of seriousness, but it's August and that's a rough time to end up having your back grab at you. And I think Tranquil is in line to once again have a huge role in this defense because it's Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquil, Leo Chanel seems pretty straightforward to me.
Yes. And, see where Jeffrey Baza, is along the way in, that sort of October, November range if everything goes normal. I know someone just asked in the comments, can Lewis Rees-Zammit play linebacker? It's not a bad question. Hey, go see ball, go get ball. I mean, like, can you do an impression of Willie Gay? So yeah, I think it's mostly not that serious right now. But we didn't see much of Justin Reed during training camp last year because he was dealing with a quad injury, and so that's one that seems somewhat similar to where it's like, hey, Justin Reed was still on the field for week 1, still played very well last season. Did not come into training camp super duper healthy, and it's unfortunate that Tranquil kind of in a contract year.
It's like a baby contract year.
Yeah.
It's like if you play well, it's not a contract year. If you play it's a contract year.
Correct. So given that, does he have to play in the second preseason game against the Seattle Seahawks? No, I would trust Drew Tranquil to be ready to go for week 1. It'd be nice. But I think for both him and Hollywood Brown, they're kind of in the same boat of, hey, it's early August. I know we're technically a month away from the first game of the season. You would love to have everybody healthy, but there's no need for us to necessarily push you right now when we could still give you, and again, I'm spitballing here, ladies and gentlemen, 5, 10 additional more days compared to like if we were going from week 4 to week 5, if that makes sense.
Right. It does. It's just something to monitor from here on out. And again, something that you would hate for week 1 to get here, or even just later in the season. And you go, man, we've asked the question before of like, has Tranquil lost half a step? Or, you get through an off season, maybe he's lost a quarter of a step, but now he's losing another quarter of a step because his back hurts.
Right.
Just something to keep in mind. Not that there are any non-physical positions at the NFL level, but you'd like to believe that your linebackers have cores that they can rely on from the beginning of the year. And it's just, I don't know, kind of spooky. Seth, you look like you had a thought of some way, shape, or form.
I was just curious if the same thought process, because with Tranquil, I mean, we'll know more when we know more. I'm curious if that same thought process applies to Hollywood Brown, who is still not practicing, and I've upgraded myself to not nervous.
And you're fully just a quick water temperature check. You are nervous about Christian Fulton, not nervous about Hollywood Brown. TBD on Drew Tranquil.
I'm slightly nervous about Christian Fulton. I don't like the idea. We're still in very early August. We're pre-first preseason game. To me, if Fulton isn't practicing like by the second preseason game, I'm going to be a little like, well, that's less than ideal. Now he's a veteran. He's a veteran. It's not like a rookie coming in.
Defense though.
He's new to the defense, but I mean, it's interesting. Like some of the stuff they were having him do last year, like the different disguises and some of the drops are pretty similar to what Spags does, but it's not identical. And you want to be able to communicate. And so I'm not nervous with Brown because I'm seeing a future in which the Chiefs open the season on which it's a bloodbath of a schedule with wide receiver 1 Xavier Worthy and Travis Kelce again being asked to shoulder the flipping weight of the universe now at 30, basically 36.
Yeah, he'll be 36 in the middle of the season.
And Travis Kelce's going to start to feel like he's in an abusive relationship because year after year, it's not going to be like that this time, baby. It's not going to be like that. I'm going to change.
We got Robert Tonyan.
Yeah, we got all these receivers. We got all this other stuff. The burden's not going to all be on you. Things are going to be different. We're going to listen more.
I do too.
We're going to listen more. We're going to talk less. We are going to not, we're not going to cut you off. We're going to hear what you have to say. We're not going to, and then Travis is like, okay. And then it's like, hey, how do you feel about taking 90% of the snaps?
Because we might not have Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown for week 1.
And I'm just saying, like, we're this close to them saying, hey, you know what's good enough? Xavier Worthy and Juju Smith-Schuster and Tyquan Thornton. Guys, and Jalen Royals. This is not Jalen Royals' erasure, but he's a rookie.
Yeah.
So I'm nervous is
Yeah.
the short story. Is that the same approach they're taking with Brown? Is that they're super cautious? Because Matt Nagy didn't. I didn't watch the presser.
I saw
the
comment.
quote.
Yeah, I saw you saw the quotes. Reading them is a little bit different than hearing them. I understand that, but I know. I got to look through it here in the comments. But from Nate Dogg was Matt Nagy ripping Hollywood today? Hard to read the tone, and it's a great comment and an understanding of what has occurred. You have to understand that Matt Nagy cannot sort of rip Hollywood Brown the way Andy Reid can. Now, just to let you guys know, I believe we'll get Andy Reid on Thursday previewing Saturday's game against the Arizona Cardinals. So tomorrow, I think it's Steve Spagnuolo, if my understanding is correct, and then we'll get Andy Reid to, officially tell us that the ones will play the first quarter, the twos will play the second quarter, the threes will play the third quarter, and the fours will play the fourth quarter. Kids, they don't have fours. There's no such thing as a fourth string.
Going to be a lot of threes.
And the ones haven't played a full quarter in years, if ever.
Correct.
Not the first
It'll
game.
be
Not the first game. At least.
Correct.
There's a really good joke about well, you know what? Never mind. Nope.
So think about
Lots
it
of
this way.
threes.
Nagy got as close to the line as he could while being firm, while trying to get you to understand that, yes, Hollywood Brown is a professional receiver. Hollywood Brown had the most unique injury of his career last year. And also, running routes for Patrick Mahomes matters. And we would like to see some of those routes sooner rather than later. So let me give you the translation, ladies and gentlemen. We may be anticipating, and now I'm speaking for Matt Nagy, essentially. The interpretation from Matt Nagy is, quote, we anticipated you will be back by today with the hope that if today went well, maybe we could throw you out there for a series against the Cardinals, right? A little slow run up to the first preseason game. Hopefully you get through that game. Hopefully you get through 2 snaps instead of 1 in the preseason opener, because we would still like to see you within the framework of the offense. And obviously Travis is going to play a series. Patrick's going to play a series. So, we would like you to play a series. And again, we are penciling and projecting you to be a starter week 1. We have no idea what's going to happen with Rashee Rice, so therefore it's kind of important. On the other side, from the player standpoint, well, Andy just a few days ago said he wanted me to be, quote-unquote, right. And when I hear the word right, as a player, I hear the word healthy. I'm not fully healthy right now, and my calendar says it's August 5th, dog. So I'm not fully healthy. Coach wants me to be fully healthy. I might be fully healthy on August 15th, if you know what I mean. And then I am available for week 1. So we're getting to a little bit of a friction, and that's understandable. That's not the Chiefs are not the only team dealing with this. At least it's not, as of yet, it's not like the Isaiah Likely injury where you're like, well, he just hobbled off the field, guys. He's fine. I'm sorry, what? He's hurt. Got it. So that hasn't happened yet. But, I think the expectation is, and the hope, optimistically, could you get Hollywood Brown for the game in Seattle, get through that game? You're probably not playing in the third preseason game with the rest of the starters, so at least we have something on film, something procedural that we can sort of account for and get going for our game plan against the Chargers.
I think for me, the issue that I have, and look, if you're hurt, you're hurt. That just is what it is. It's bad luck. I'm sure it frustrates Brown as much as anyone else.
It does. Yes.
It's just one of those things where I think my frustration, and when I wrote weeks ago, maybe even a month or 2 ago, that they were kind of running back the 2024 plan in 2025, which in some ways makes sense. In a lot of ways, with improvements, with Worthy, a better player now. I saw on Twitter earlier today, someone talking about like looking at the last 7 games Worthy played in the season. You actually see, and I wrote about this with Rashee Rice in his rookie year, you see a bump up in his yards per route run, his depth of target, like a few different things that you can use to kind of measure effectiveness. And think what you will of it, it's one measure, his PFF grade.
Mhm.
They all climbed by a decent margin those last 7 weeks. And I wrote about with Rashee Rice, you saw that in his rookie year too. The last half of the season, you saw a substantial bump in role as well as quantity. And you saw that same thing with Worthy. So I get the thought process there. I think where I'm starting to feel a little frustrated is you end up in what feels like potentially a remarkably similar situation when you know how bad things were. Now, is the situation the same if rather than a gaping hole at left tackle, you have the greatest player in the history of the game?
Oh, yes.
Young Trent Williams.
Yes.
And that's so. And so I'm just more. I'm not frustrated with Hollywood Brown. Like, I mean, that guy, he's reaching an age to where it's kind of has to happen for him this year.
And it certifiably is a contract year, guys.
Yes. Well, his second 1 year in a row, and you're playing for the Chiefs. There's going to be a lot of teams that are like, man, if you can't put up with the Chiefs, you know, yeah, we'll give you a $4 million deal or whatever, which is a lot of money, but not what he's looking at. Hollywood Brown has this, him and Charles Omenihu have an incredible range of outcomes after this season. Both of them, I don't see a lot of in between like another 1 year kind of prove it deal. And their floor is like a 1 year, like $4 or $5 million deal with a ceiling being like, you know, what Tershawn Wharton or Christian Kirk or like some of these guys got. So I'm sure he wants to be out there. I'm just more like, I've been hurt by the last couple seasons, and I'm much less willing to give the offense the benefit of a doubt that they're just going to figure it out.
It is interesting that this is right now what Hollywood is missing is stuff he was out there for last year, which I think is probably slightly better than missing training camp 2 years in a row or just
right.
So if he ends up on the timeline you laid out, Nate, if he's out there for the second preseason game for a little bit, it's not like he hasn't had a training camp with Mahomes. He was obviously back in the offense at the end last year.
Yep.
But he's got to be on the field. I mean, that's just you can't catch passes from the sideline. Obviously, that's a very good bit of analysis for me. I've told you also, I don't think it's fair to like hold the collarbone thing over him. I don't think this is. Doesn't feel like we're in Kadarius Toney territory right now, right?
No,
I mean, like it seems like Hollywood knows exactly what he needs to accomplish, and it's just trying to get his body to a point where he can do that. I just, to your point, Seth, would really hate for the first. I also haven't mentioned Jordan Addison got suspended for 3 games today. Thought maybe that might just domino into the Rashee Rice decision, all of that. Maybe that'll be tomorrow. Maybe it'll be knowing this show 10 minutes after the show ends.
Oh my gosh.
Don't start. Don't.
If that happens, and I would say that was a reminder to me. That was a reminder to me that Jordan Addison's team and the NFL and the Vikings just did an all-time news dump moment when Rashee Rice's stuff came out. You know, they were like, "Oh, we weren't going to do this today, but no, just do a quick thing. Nobody cares about you today, Jordan Addison." And Addison's like, "Well, the only thing that was different with my conduct was bad luck." It's like, yeah, we don't care. Just, you know, like that was all-time news drop moment. Timing matters a ton.
Yes, it really does. It really does.
How's Juju
no
looking
actual
at
news
camp?
on Rashee Rice yet, but no actual news on Rashee Rice yet. It just does open up that possibility where if Hollywood's not ready to go, if Rashee Rice is suspended now, it's sort of like the cornerback thing. If Christian Fulton's not out there, it's going to look like the wide receiver and cornerback rooms that you saw for most of last season.
Yeah, no. I think
Plus Tyquan Thornton and Noel Williams.
Juju Smith-Schuster's had a very fine camp. You don't have to worry about him. I think that's one of the pluses because he wasn't at training camp last year. We have to remind the audience that he was
like an August signing. Yeah.
He was catching passes from Mac Jones last year or Drake May. I don't know.
Mac Jones, I think, was gone already, but I don't know.
Was gone. Yeah, he was back in Jacksonville by then. So yes,
players still there.
Yeah, sure. But he wasn't in training camp last year, and again, he's been in the offense for the second time, fully through an off season. So again, Jalen Royals. I know we're gonna get to the rookie stock report. I don't know what you can ask necessarily from Jalen Royals in week 1, but at least there's something there. If given the opportunity with Rashee Rice potentially not being available, with Hollywood Brown maybe in a more limited role than you would like for week 1, but again, understandable. It's a long season. So, hey, you could scheme up some things if the coaching staff knows what you're good at early on, and Jalen Rose has given the Chiefs every opportunity to get a really good sense of how he's done alongside, catching passes from Mahomes. So I understand the apprehension. I understand the fear. There's a slim chance, I want to make that very clear, there's a slim chance that, hey, Hollywood's ready to go against the Seattle Seahawks. Hey, wouldn't you know it, Drew Tranquill back on the field doing a couple series for the Chiefs against the Seattle Seahawks, where it's all vanilla stuff. We're not doing anything crazy. Hey, let me just see how you look, fitting up some gaps and making some tackles, right? Being in the proper space. And this is, I think, the longest long shot. But who knows? Maybe Christian Fulton's like, you know what? I'm tired of watching Najee Johnson take my reps. So I'm actually going to come back next Tuesday, a week from today, to get ready for our game Friday, August 15th against the Seattle Seahawks. If any of those three things happen, or if all three of those things happen, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised. It just reminds you that, like, with each passing day of the calendar, all these veteran guys know when it gets a little bit more serious. Okay, the professionalism is supposed to come out. Okay, I've spent enough time with the training staff. All right, what's the play calls again? Right, because we're actually doing football stuff to get ready for the actual season.
It'll be fascinating. A few injuries there to keep an eye on. And those guys, I think, are all going to matter pending their availability early on. But where do a few of those rookies land that Nate just mentioned? A couple things on the first unofficial depth chart, a few things in the rotations there in St. Joe. We're going to take a timeout, and when we come back, we're going to talk about where the rookies land. Coming up next on Only Weird Games. I don't know why we're not really going anywhere.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Folks, nothing beats hanging out with the boys on a hot summer day and watching some baseball. And the simplest way that you all can get in on the action is to download the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It is crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. And the best part is, Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on the fun. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6, and right now, new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Here's what you got to do. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and then use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Bonus picks expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Let's start in the defensive trenches here, fellas. No surprise that Josh Simmons is the number 1 left tackle on the unofficial depth chart. And Nate, if you need to give us any more
Unofficial
underlinings of unofficial,
depth
whatever
chart.
that means,
Now
I'm gonna say the
look,
phrase unofficial depth chart until you
right.
clarify.
Okay. Let's get this correct, guys. It's an unofficial depth chart, which means they officially have to give you something. They officially have to put something down on paper. Now, a lot of that is legitimate, but there's some things where I hopefully will be your interpreter as we go through this, as relates to the rookies, as relates to some of the positional battles, some reps that I've seen with my own eyes, not lining up with the unofficial depth chart. Now, I know Jesse Mentors was up late at night really flipping through this depth chart, really figuring out every position on the offense so that the Chargers can understand maybe we should cover Travis Kelce on opening night. So I'll interpret it for you, but just know they have to put something down on paper, which means I'm here to tell you the truth.
Nate's going to tell us the truth, and I think I might be able to at least ask the right questions here, and then I'll let you guys kind of bounce around. Where Seth, you got a new piece in the Chief from the North newsletter about things you're buying or not buying from this first act of training camp, real or fantasy, I believe. And you talked about a bunch of the rookies throughout that mix. You already talked about Jalen Royals some, and we're not going to get through all the stuff that's in the newsletter. People can check it out there. But the defensive trenches, to me, are interesting for 2 reasons. One is that, Nate, from before pads, you were on the Omar Norman Lott hype train. Seth is skeptical now as his article leaves him. I think it's interesting, not the most interesting. I'm saving the most interesting. I think it's interesting that Omar Norman Lott is on the second team line at defensive tackle behind Mike Pennell, Jerry Tillery behind Chris Jones. I find that worthwhile that he's even ahead of Marlon Tuipulotu and Fabian Lovett, guys who were here first, which is often, I think, the tiebreaker for what puts you there in the depth chart. So where are you both at Omar Norman Lott? You guys can go whatever order you feel like. I'm not really in charge here.
You?
Unbelievable.
Him?
The first time in 5 years that you haven't both responded at the same time is when I say, hey, you guys figure it out.
Nate and I really, we really came together in that moment. Sometimes your teammate and you are just on the same page. I'm going to be humble here and say that I was Dwayne Wade with my hands up, having thrown that ball up, and I knew that my teammate was on the exact same page as we were.
The messed
Patrick
up thing
Mahomes
is that Chris Bosch was standing under the restricted circle, looking up, getting dunked on. Also, your teammate.
Yeah. That was less than fair to our teammate. This is like Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce connecting against Houston when there was no reason for Mahomes to know, but Kelce was going to turn. I had no reason for the last 5 years to think that Nate wouldn't say something, but I knew. And he had no reason based on literally the entire time he's known me to think, hey, I bet Seth's quiet here. And we just knew. And so, you know what? We don't need any more reps. Nate and I are in. Nate, you tell us about Omar Norman Lott.
Hey, I'm gonna sit in the front of the cart, and I'll see you guys in 30 minutes.
Oh, Nate's mic is down. There it is.
Sorry, this is perfectly normal, unofficial depth chart nonsense. Look, on first down, on 1st and 10 to start the game, the Chiefs will roll out Mike Pennell and Chris Jones.
Yep.
But the first player coming off the sideline, as of right now, it is presumed to be Omar Norman Lott. So that is accurate. That is an accurate representation of the depth chart that I interpret based on what I've seen in training camp, based on what I've heard. And hey, you can obviously mix in Jerry Tillery wherever you want, okay? Where does he matter in the depth chart? He doesn't matter. He's on the team. He's done nothing in camp, and that's fine. Now, Seth, when it comes to the defensive line, who jumped out to you on the depth
Don't move
chart?
off one more Norman Lott yet. Don't do this. Don't do this. Absolutely not.
I just want to get to the honest moment.
Hates Omar Norman Lott and said that everything he's doing in training camp is smoke and mirrors, and that's what he wrote in the Chief of the North newsletter.
I mean, in order for
good is a fantasy. That's not true.
That's not true at all.
You make a specific note about how the conversation on Omar Norman Lott has gone in these last few days, as opposed to the first few days of even pre-pads. Where does your skepticism, or just where do your eyes go now? Because it's going to be hard for him to prove anything in St. Joe as well. He can prove some things, maybe lightly on Saturday.
Absolutely. Here's what I would say in response, and I don't mean this as cheeky, although it comes across a little cheeky. When you say, like, I think that what he's done in training camp means absolutely nothing. Have I missed all these video clips of him looking awesome in training camp? Have I missed all the reports of him winning these one-on-one reps, him disrupting the 11-on-11s? Have I missed that? All I've seen is reports that he's playing with the first team. Playing. You know what that reminds me of? Kingsley Suamataia last year. He's lining up with the first team.
Here we go.
And that's the thing. I maybe he is dominating and literally no one's saying it. That would be amazing. I would love that. But the thing that they're talking about.
It's really hard to dominate when Chris Jones is literally in the backfield in 1 second, Seth.
It would just be nice to hear, wow, ONL won that rep. Tell me one tweet that's come out like that. And maybe, I hope I'm wrong. The buzz that he's getting is that he's getting these snaps. And you know why? Who's their other 3-tech? Who's their other interior pass rusher? Oh, man, he's going to get a shot above. Hold on, let me check these notes.
Hold on.
No, they're not going to line up Mike Pinnell there. Probably Jerry Tillery.
Let me tell you who their second 3-tech pass rusher is. His name is Charles Omenihu.
Okay, and this is what and Charles Omenihu is really good from 3-tech. I see the vision with Omar Norman Lott, but what I don't understand is how there are times when I feel like I'm taking crazy pills doing this job. And what ends up happening in situations like this
from Tuesday and Thursday, about
Thursday specifically.
What ends up happening is someone gets first team reps and no one talks about how those reps went. And then there's all this buzz from everywhere, the aggregators when everywhere.
The lights come on. I need to see it, Omar. That's basically what you sound like.
That's what I would like
come on Saturday.
I don't care if someone is getting snaps.
Show it.
If a highly drafted player is getting snaps at his position with no depth. That doesn't really impress me.
The opposite would be bigger news.
Yes, genuinely. The opposite. Yeah, Omar Norman Lott can't seem to push past Jerry Tillery on the depth chart. Well, I'd be like, wow. And you know what? Good for Tillery if that happened, I guess.
Right.
But that's where I'm trying to understand. It'd be like if Royals were getting the reps that he's getting at wide receiver with Hollywood Brown not hurt. And wide receiver is different because they rotate guys in all the time. It's like, wow, Brandon Stools playing with Mahomes. It's like, yes, that's how that works because they're practicing against air.
Somebody's got to run the seam route.
Someone's got to run a seam route, which they're throwing those again. So I hope that Omar Norman Lott just crushes it on Saturday, which I'm going to be camping, what my wife termed minimalistic camping, by the way. So I don't know what I'm going to do Saturday. On a side note,
minimalistic camping.
Okay,
that's the word she keeps using, and I'm scared.
Is it just the two of you? Because I know what's very minimalistic.
No,
I'm going
with our family. We're camping with another family. Okay, Nate Taylor of ESPN.
I had to ask, what do you mean?
So
you don't even know what I'm alluding to.
That's true.
Here.
Well, no, I bring her out to the middle of nowhere because of the implication. And so, anyway, here's the thing with Omar Norman Lott.
Anytime I see a man and a woman in one boat.
Because of the
That's all I think about on TV.
It is all I can think about anytime I see that because of the implication. It's one of the funniest things. So here's what I would say with Omar Norman Lott. And that's the only thing just to push back is that people are talking about the reps that he's getting at training camp. I'm not hearing anything about these reps. Like imagine if all we were hearing about Josh Simmons was he's lining up with the first team. He's lining up with the first team. They're pretty excited about him. He's lining up with the first team. It shows that we would be like, oh, that's nice. But instead, you get clip after clip of him standing out in one-on-ones and in team. That's much harder to do as a defensive player. And everyone's like, oh, well, Chris Jones does it. Yes. That's how hard it is. You have to be like Chris Jones good. You know what I mean?
Just a Hall of Famer.
I just want to see I want to see something, anything. And one thing I would note, And I'm going to write about this later this week. The things to watch in preseason, which this is an annual tradition, and I always write a new article because I have new things.
Yes.
One of the things you can take something from in preseason, because you've got minimal scheme stuff, minimal whatever, one-on-one reps in the trenches. I knew Chris Jones was going to be a good player after his first preseason rep. I knew Justin Houston was going to be a good player after his first preseason rep. And that was because Justin Houston, remember, because they drafted him in the 3rd round because he smoked weed in college.
Because he smoked weed.
And his first rep, they were like doing that. Remember that ridiculous thing they did with him his rookie year? They were like, he's coming off the bench. And his first rep was against the 2nd string offense. And I remember watching him just destroy some backup tackle. And I was like, uh-oh, that's not good. People forget how good Justin Houston was, on a side note. You can see it with defensive and offensive linemen. Now, if they're no good from night 1, does that mean they're not going to be any good? No. But that pop, that seeing, those traits translate. You could see that with Chris Jones the first time he put his hands on another grown man during a preseason game and threw him aside. You were like, ooh, that'll play. With Omar Norman-Lott, does his combination of some decent power, some decent explosion, and actual bend for an interior guy, does that come forward? That's what I'm looking for, and not, oh, hey, he came off the field first or came onto the field first. I don't care when he came onto the field. I care what he did once he was on the field. And maybe I am being kind of a hater. The comments are largely thinking that I'm being a hater, so maybe I should consider that.
Well, they might not like this one. So again, as a point of reference for where the depth chart stands, Noel Williams is ahead of other undrafted rookies, right? Behind Trent McDuffie. Right. Again, we're noting Omar Norman-Lott over Marlon Tuipulotu is kind of interesting because Marlon's been around a little bit.
Yeah.
It generally goes. Jalen Royals is behind Tyquan Thornton. Tyquan Thornton's been here since part of last year. He's a veteran. He kind of gets the edge there. But a lot of times it's going to be your incumbents and what have we what have we invested into you? Mm-hmm. Which is why I think by far the most interesting thing here is that one of the defensive end depth chart positions goes Mike Dana, Ashton Gelati, Felix and Udike Uzama, end of list.
Ashton Gelati. Sorry.
You should be.
So
Felix is on the 3rd team line with Marlon Tuipulotu, Fabian Lovett, Malik Herring on the defensive line. It's where Jeffrey Bass is at, along with guys Brandon George, Cooper McDonald, Melvin Smith, guys making practice squad and special teams kinds of cases.
Yes.
I think it is, and Nate, I'm curious if I think this has to have been reflected in camp reps, because otherwise this just isn't really a move you make on these unofficial depth charts where you have the 3rd round rookie over the 4th round veteran, or excuse me, 1st round veteran.
Right.
It feels like more of a rough sign for Felix than anything. It could be great for Gelati. I think the Ashton Gelati part of this is less interesting than the Felix part, unfortunately.
Correct. I agree with you. And guys, they didn't have to do this.
No.
But this is accurate based on what we've seen in training camp. And it's accurate based on how much Steve Spagnuolo wants to get Ashton Gelati as many reps to prepare him for his NFL debut in Brazil. So I thought about this, and I'm going to let you, the audience, decide for yourself. I think in an ideal world, Steve Spagnuolo would like to have 10 defensive linemen. Now, some years it's been 9. Some years it's been 10. And that's somewhat depending on what happens with Xavier Worthy a couple years, last year, and then obviously now with the Rashee Rice angle element to it as well. So the first 8 guys on the line, on the 2 depth, are all on the team. Mm-hmm. That's Ashton Gelati, Omar Norman-Lott, Jerry Tillery, Charles Omenihu, George Karlaftis, Chris Jones, Mike Pennell, Mike Dana. They're locks, kids. So I think the Chiefs would like to pick between either Marlon Tuipulotu or Fabian Lovett. They would like to pick one of those guys. Again, for positional value and for just the carnage that happens in football where, that player might need to be on the active roster to be ready to go in like week 3 as a one tech, as a backup one tech, basically. Well, kids, we now go to you live from Arizona on Saturday, and it's Felix Anudike-Uzomah, the former first-round pick, battling against Malik Herring and Janaris Robinson to not only make the roster, but to be activated on game day. That's where we are, guys.
Which, for me, begs a relatively obvious question of just where is the team with FAU? Like, even without relitigating a first-round pick and draft grades and all of those things, like, he got a small increase in workload. I think we saw some flashes in some of those reps, but also I said this earlier today talking to Sterling. I said, look, if you put Ashton Gelati and Felix Anudike-Uzomah in black and white uniforms with no logos or names or numbers or anything, and you watch their college film and you looked at their build, and then you watched them in training camp, and I said, all right, you've watched both of these guys for this is your full-time job all day today, right? Which one of those guys looks like Steve Spagnuolo's preference? You would not need very long to tell me that it was Ashton Gelati. Now, that's something that they should have confronted by draft night. It's something that should have been a point of conversation with Cam Thomas and Joshua Uche, probably. And this is not me putting this all on the same level of, Spags just won't play FAU. That's the problem. I really am curious, Nate. I mean, you said Felix in that third rotation is what you've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are we at ball game territory? Does he have a chance to improve his stock with the hot preseason? What's the plan? Is it just the guy you have a situational edge rusher who might get used if Charles Omenihu misses a couple of games? I don't know. I'm having a hard time seeing the future.
Right. Think about it. If everything goes according to the Chiefs' plan, last year they had to rely on Malik Herring. They had to rely on FAU for a decent portion of snaps. If everything goes, I guess, according to the plan, they don't need them for those particular snaps. Now, it's still time for Felix to be a professional to take that year 3 leap. I guess the only way we're going to see it is through the preseason, ladies and gentlemen, because what I've seen at training camp is reflected in the depth chart. This is an accurate interpretation because, again, as I said earlier, it's clear to Joe Cullen, the defensive line coach, to Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator, and you got to get approval from the head guy. This comes down to Andy Reid, too, along with the personnel staff that selected Ashton Gelati in, the third round? Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They want to see this guy more than they want to see you in this training camp environment. Now, does that mean the two of them are playing on opposite ends of the defensive line on Saturday? Could definitely happen. There is more upside with FAU. I think we know what Malik Herring is, but Malik Herring is probably a more consistent player on a down-to-down basis. I think that's a fair assessment. He just needs to play well. And if Ashton Gelati pops the way George Karlaftis popped, and this goes back to your point, Seth. Remember, George Karlaftis had a very good game against the Chicago Bears to start his NFL preseason debut. I remember him looking well. Obviously, that was a game Isaiah Pacheco basically told you that, yes, I will break tackles as a rookie in the NFL, even if I don't know the entire scheme that well, because I'm going to run hard. I think those were the two winners from that draft class on that first preseason game. So, again, if Ashton Gelati has a very similar performance to George Karlaftis, well, that coaching staff has now been they have been informed to keep feeding into Gelati, to keep giving him the amount of resources, the amount of time, the amount of coaching attention. It's unfortunate, but at the same time, I understand, too, that the league moves quickly, guys. And there's a reason they felt they needed to bring Charles Omenihu back. What is Felix willing to do on special teams on Saturday? I know that sounds really humbling because you're a former first-round pick. But can you show Dave Toll that you can be significant in the special teams game too, along with showing some progress at the edge position? That would help you. Because you know what Ashton July is going to do? They told me he's going to be George Karlaftis, which means 4 phases, and I think that I can be effective or productive to some degree as a rookie on the defensive end. That's where this gets complicated for Felix.
And Seth, I don't know if you had other Felix thoughts at the time, but I know we've talked in the past about, hey, if you are a higher pedigree, for lack of a better term, player who's out there going up against the 2s and the 3s in the preseason, you'd better be making them look like 2s and 3s. Like they need to be dominant performances if you want to show, hey, I'm being underrated here. I don't know what you would want to see from Felix in the preseason to maybe change that direction at all.
It would be something like that. Not even necessarily dominance, just clearly a cut above. Like it should show that you don't belong on the same field with backups. Brandon Thorne does a great job writing about, his tiers of offensive and defensive linemen. And one thing he does a great job about when he's talking about like elite players, he talks about the fact that they dominate against basically all competition and then go shot for shot with elite competition. The thing about like a good player is like, so let's say you take an above average or even good offensive lineman, let's say a good guard. Against Chris Jones, you match him up one-on-one consistently, he's going to have a bad game, right? And that's the idea of like, what do you look like against varying levels of competition? And that's, what do you do that with that consistently? So that's one thing last year's preseason with FAU. That was one thing when I watched, and it was like, he's just not standing out. And that's something I'll write about later this week. I'm hoping to have it published Friday. I might write about something else before that. But that's one of the things to write about or to look for with your second string guys. So say Ashton Gelati, who's had a few clips come out, especially as camp has moved along, which is interesting to see. Gelati's a guy with terrific film in college. Terrific film, good pressure numbers, good pass rush win rate numbers at a high volume, but he lacks length. So can that translate to the next level? What does that look like against NFL caliber backups? It should flash. Now, that doesn't mean should he like dominate like the way Justin Houston did against backups. Well, no, Justin Houston, before getting robbed of a little explosion, was an unbelievably good player.
Yeah.
You're looking to see, is he clearly a cut above? Remember what Mahomes looked like on the field in 2017 in preseason
against the Titans.
They sometimes you can just see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And that's something to take a look at in terms of Ashton Gelati. I think with FAU, if he's not flashing, he didn't last year against backups. It's not that he played badly, by the way. He didn't play badly in the preseason. He was fine.
He was fine.
But that included, he looked the same against second stringers and third stringers as he kind of looks against first stringers. And that might sound like a compliment, but for a pass rusher, it's not.
It's too inconsistent. Yep. There's too much variation in production level, and for a coach who's relying on consistency, durability, holding up and setting the edge above all else. Right. Even before we get to the quarterback, it's too much. It's just too much inconsistency. So if he shows consistency, he will be on the team. He potentially has a chance to still be active on game day. Now that's a little tricky with, okay, Amenahue can step inside. Dana can step inside. You still want to develop Norman Lott. Where does that all fix? I mean, even Malik Herring can dive inside if you really want him to. And so it's a tricky situation for him, but it just reminds you how quickly this thing can change in a matter of 2 years in the league based on your standing, the expectations, and then what reality comes in year 3.
We'll make this our last topic for today. If you want to read about Svelte Travis Kelce, you can go to Seth's secret website, sveltetraviskelsey.com, or the Chief of the North newsletter, mnchiefsfan.substack.com.
I bet that would do numbers.
Look, man, this will not be the first Google search, I don't think, for Svelte Travis
Nah.
Kelce, if people just want to find it that way. But we should have a conversation about Travis Kelce before the season starts at some point. It seems reasonable.
he
I
looks
think he may
great.
have a large role on the team again. But let's talk about Jawaan Taylor. You think, not a big role for Travis Kelce this year, Nate? You don't think he's going to be one of the 15? We've spent hours talking about Ashton Gelati, and it's like, Travis Kelce, I don't know. We'll get to him. He's been around for a long time.
Well, I mean, it does help him that he gets the Chargers in week 1. I'm sure they'll figure out where he is on the field.
No, for sure. This is the week. This is the year. This is the decade. But let's talk about Jawaan Taylor. He spoke to the media and he talked about suffering a knee injury last year. And we knew, I think what we had figured out last year was that Jawaan Taylor wasn't practicing when the Chiefs moved inside and were practicing on artificial surfaces, I think was what we ended up with. But we didn't know exactly what was going on there. Nate, you've been out there. Tell us whatever you think was most interesting from Jawaan Taylor's presser, what that reflected on from last year, his timeline, and then Seth, I'm curious to see if you think it'll have any impact on 2025.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you listen closely throughout certain portions of our shows last season, I was trying to tell you that Jawaan Taylor was not healthy. And, I was trying to tell you that Wanya Morse was not healthy. Obviously, Kingsley Suamataia was not ready. And, yep, he pulled his hamstring in the first game back in the league. DJ Humphrey, not healthy. So their tackle situation, I knew was a calamity, even more so than the public knew. And I was just happy that in our chance to speak with Jawaan over the weekend, he was comfortable and assured enough to say, hey, not only am I in a position battle with Jalen Moore, but yeah, I wasn't right last year. And I had to play because the left tackle position was an absolute Alcatraz. And I couldn't do that to Andy Heck. I couldn't do that to Andy Reid. I couldn't do it to Patrick Mahomes. So let's get this knee drained. Let's get some veteran kind of days off, which Andy Reid doesn't want to do, but has to do it in this circumstance. And y'all, we really need the bye week. We really need to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers on Christmas so that I can have one more push in the postseason to give ourselves a chance to maybe three-peat. Jawaan Taylor's one of those like fascinating players who's kind of in like that Frank Clark land, but Frank Clark could do something about it because he could sack Joe Burrow in a playoff game, and you could be like, well, that kind of absolves some of the issues that he had throughout the course of his career. It's just not a way for Jawaan to really do that other than to stay healthy, not be penalized, and hope nobody says your name. And, man, that ain't glamorous.
Yep.
So I still think he's the right tackle. I think Jalen Moore is a more solidified insurance policy than they had at any point last year at either tackle position. But him getting his knee scoped in the offseason, him going to get stem cell treatments in the offseason in Panama, him splitting reps because he is very much a part of, hey, slowly build me up to the start of the regular season. I think we're at a place now where entering a contract year, I gave you guys everything I had last year, and I've signed up to do it again. And only this time, I hope my knee holds up. But if it doesn't, thank God we have Jalen Moore here. Thank God. Was basically my interpretation of what he said. Because he's like, no, I actually wasn't upset that Jalen Moore was added to the team. I'm not upset that Josh Simmons is here. Have you seen Josh Simmons? He's good. And oh my God, thank God Jalen Moore. Like, don't take my starting spot. But if the team actually needs me to like take a couple weeks off, and Josh Simmons is doing just fine at left tackle, thank God Jalen Moore's here, and he can spell me a little bit because I didn't have that last year given the injuries I was battling through that he was very quiet about. But internally within the building, it was very clear that they weren't getting the best version of Jawaan Taylor, and it's just better when everybody knows the truth of the situation, even if it's months after the fact.
Seth, does any of that impact how you think about Jawaan Taylor's 2024 season? And does anything there impact how you feel about Jawaan Taylor this season?
I mean, anytime you know that a player, especially one that relies on high-level athleticism as much as Taylor, when their knee is messed up, that's going to matter. That would explain why, after calming it down for a while, he started getting some bad habits again with his jump. Not even bad habits, honestly. I mean, we've fought this battle a million times. I've put it on Twitter and slowed it down to where people can see that he's getting off at the exact moment that the ball is being snapped. Most of the time, occasionally it's a microsecond early, but so are multiple other tackles. Whatever, right? We've litigated that
Johnson.
issue. Yeah, we've litigated that issue to death. He last year wasn't as good as he was in 2023, where he was an above average pass protector and was fine as a run blocker. Wasn't really anything special. Wasn't necessarily good, but you could get by with him. They didn't ask him to do much. Last year, he was very inconsistent. That would make sense for a guy who's injured. If he's healthy and he's back to being an above average pass protector, that just removes another potential weak spot. And it really does, I think, put in some perspective the fact that he was willing to do that, knowing how bad things were on the left side of the line. That's nice to see. There's a few things that have to fall in line for the offensive line play to be vastly improved this year. And Jawaan Taylor being what he was in 2023 isn't necessarily one of them that has to happen, but it's a nice bonus if he can be on an island a little more often and he's back to moving the way he normally does. And I agree that Moore being in town does provide excellent insurance. If you've got a guy that's like, I can't go, that's great. I don't think personally, I know people keep thinking it's a true competition. I don't think it is. I think and I think it's more of they're just letting him come in slowly. They're going to see how he does. It's his job to lose. I think unless Jawaan Taylor plays at like Lane Johnson levels, this is his last year in Kansas City. And even then, probably would still be his last year in Kansas City. It would be more of a Joe Thuney situation.
My last thing on the Jalen Moore insurance policy of it all, because you guys are right, I'm just reemphasizing this. Jalen Moore was also an insurance policy on the Chiefs not getting a tackle they liked very much in the first round of the draft, which also ended up being an insurance policy on the very likely, if not probable, outcome that Josh Simmons wasn't going to be ready for week one. Even if the Chiefs internally believed that he would be, no one could have guaranteed that he was going to be available at 31, ultimately 32. It's a good use of insurance in that instance. And I think that will continue into the season and will be good for everybody involved. When we come back on Thursday, we're going to look ahead to a preseason game, but a game against another football team. I think the first preseason game is always fun. The first anything of the offseason is fun. And the second and third become maybe a little bit less fun. The third, certainly, you're not getting as much from the starters, but we'll pick some players to spotlight that you should be watching for on Saturday, and do whatever else we got to do to get you ready for a little bit of not quite real, but more real football action coming up this weekend. Again, you can read Seth's piece about what he's buying, what he's not, what's real, what's fantasy right now in the Chief of the North newsletter, including Svelte, Travis Kelce, and several other things. And you can read Nate's work on ESPN.com. There. ESPN.com. You can get his work there. And Nate, as long as you're not too busy being the new face of the worldwide leader, why don't you go ahead and get us out of here?
Only you can say that.
And I will.
Won't.
I will.
Oh, thank you, sir. It's a pleasure to once again do this lovely show with you guys. I do want to give a quick shout out to Jesse Newell. Oh boy, why did he close this? Seth, what do you do?
I don't know. I saw Seth glance at a camera and then turn it off. I assume it's not related to you.
Okay, well, I just want to give a quick shout out to Jesse Newell, the new Chiefs beat writer at The Athletic, my old place. It's his first day today, ladies and gentlemen. So if you have some time, congratulate Jesse. I know that there were some people who were concerned and I couldn't really say anything concerned about me leaving the Athletic and what that meant for the company, the New York Times. You don't have to worry about the Athletic guys. They're doing great work. They're adding awesome people almost every day, it seems like. I had a wonderful time there for 7 years. Really, really happy for Jesse. And I would encourage you to continue to subscribe. I would encourage you to, like, you know, if you're in Kansas City, obviously subscribe to the Kansas City Star. Like, journalism is important. We have a very silly civic duty, but there are people behind these jobs. And so, you know, Jesse has my support, just like everybody else on the beat. I know we mentioned guys here and there occasionally.
Everybody except for one, and we're not going to tell you who.
That, Your Honor, that was Joshua Brisco speaking exclusively for Joshua Brisco.
His name is Sam McDowell.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Sorry,
I know they have a rivalry that is that predates
I think it's
this
messed up that
podcast.
Jesse had to take a new job to get away from Sam, but I would have done it too. You know.
Well, look, it was important for everybody
Seth's
involved.
back inexplicably. We're still in the
Thank
outro,
you.
Seth. You're just gonna sit there and smile.
Yeah. Just tell everybody how cool Jesse Newell is, Seth. That's all I wanted you to do. Now that you're here, we got to put you to work.
Oh man, I think he's going to do a fantastic job. I think he's done a wonderful job with the work that he's done with the Star over the years. If he followed me back on Twitter, I'd probably have more to say.
Oh.
Actually, you know, I think that's true.
Wow. Can you confirm? Can you double check that for us real quick?
I am following and not followed by Jesse.
Oh.
But man, that is a great picture he's got up there on Twitter, and he has crushed it. He does a terrific job.
Oh
He
my
thinks outside the
God.
box. He does coverage the way it ought to be done, and
Still-
you know,
still
his,
follows me.
his personally,
follows me.
his personally
Jesse.
despising me
Congratulations,
aside, I think
Congratulations.
Well, in fairness, Seth, he only follows 3,591 people, so he just might
Good
not have gotten you. It's
Lord.
pretty exclusive.
Just
list.
not you. Yeah, just not you.
know.
You know.
No, that's fine. Always
You know, it's a shame that someone who used to write for The Athletic can't even get followed by the guy who just joined today.
it's cool.
What
I
a
mean,
shame.
he
What a
technically
shame.
used to write for The Athletic.
I mean, didn't we all technically?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
more or less. Mostly
Yeah,
less.
yeah, some of us significantly more. All right, that's the end of the show. I've decided. Talk to you Thursday.
Congratulations, Jesse.
From Nate Taylor and Joshua Brisco.